Hello and welcome to the AusCycling Esports Tour. This is the first of 3 big days of racing, kicking off with the individual time trial to Bologna. I'm Matt Keenan, joined by Kieran Lewis. And Kieran, I'm accustomed to commentating on you, not with you. We've got 3 big days of racing. I know you're disappointed that you're not getting to do the time trial to Bologna.
Mate, I had to find my way into the commentating booth at some point. I think always getting to listen to you sounds like a lot of joy being in here with you, so why not? And Bologna maybe isn't my forte, so I'm grateful to be in the booth for this one.
It is tough. It's only 8 kilometres, so it looks easy being 8 kilometres, but not every kilometre is created equal. The first 6 kilometres, not too bad, reasonably flat. The last 2Ks really tough uphill. But it's those final 2 kilometres where some big time gaps can be made. We have Katie Banerjee, I think, starting as the favourite in the women's. Mark O'Brien in the men's event. We can see some significant time gaps here on day one.
I think so. This is going to be really, really big. I mean, as you can see on the screen there's a 9.6% average for that final 2K. It's absolutely a wall in front of you once you take that sharp right-hander. And I think we could expect anywhere upwards of a minute to even 2 minutes across the field here, that's for sure.
Well, I hope Mark O'Brien has managed to get himself some coffee, because he was struggling to get coffee this morning in Melbourne where he was. The electricity was out, so his coffee machine wasn't working. And he'll need it tomorrow morning as well, as the racing kicks off at 9 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. It's Watopia with the Muir and then up the mountain, 34 kilometres, the Queen Stage. That will be really tough. Then on Sunday, a 9 o'clock start once again. It's around the circuit that was used in 2015 for the World Championships, a title that was won by Lizzie Deignan, Peter Sagan in the men's race. And this, of course, Kieran, that I really like. It offers enough to try and get rid of the sprinters, but it gives the sprinters hope that they can hold on. We're in for a couple of really big days of racing across Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, for sure. I was the mastermind behind selecting this course, and I've tried to create a bit of something for everybody here. You know, your powerhouses starting tonight, get to show what they got, and then obviously the Queen Stage for the climbers to come out and play, and wrapping things up with the opportunists potentially. You know, maybe someone can get away up the road, and that Richmond course, similar to what we saw back in 2015 at the Real Life Worlds.
Do you think tomorrow's stage is the defining moment?
I think so. I think tonight we definitely will see some gaps, and we'll see some people at the top that we could expect to also be at the top of the Queen Stage. But I think realistically, Muir and the Mountain will sort things out for sure. It's so hard featuring that climb up Watopia column. It's really where you need to be on it that day. If your legs aren't there, you're going to not see the end of this tour pretty much.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of strategy once you get onto that climb. The best legs normally wins. We're not too far away from getting started. The women off first. As I mentioned, Katie Banerjee starting as the big favourite. She can punch out 5 watts per kilo for 20 minutes. That screams #Alch for me. But also on the start list, Kieran, she's not competing in the elites. She's in C grade, but she is elite. Rebecca Wisak, she's recently become a mother. She's a 2-time world champion in the individual pursuit. I'm happy just to see her on the start line.
No, it is so good seeing Rebecca back out here and getting the Ks back in on Zwift after obviously recent mother, which is awesome that, you know, she's giving it a crack in the tour tonight. And I'd be quite fearful for starting in C grade up in the front up against the world champion, but also quite exciting, I guess, for a lot of the juniors out there that would be lining up. And I'm sure that they have Rebecca as one of their idols in the sport, that's for sure. So a really nice moment for those juniors out there getting to race against her.
Indeed, it's a really good benchmark to see where you're at against somebody who was one of the world's best. And of course, for Australian cycling, the Zwift platform has been the launching pad for 2 significant careers that we saw take to the world stage in the real world in 2021. Obviously, we had Neve Bradbury for the women racing for Canyon SRAM, and she made a really big impact in her first season at the top level. And Jay Vine, particularly the Volta de España, racing for the Alpecin Fenix team. He was enormous. And I can imagine, Kieran, given your connection to those 2 through Zwift, you would have got a lot of fun out of watching them in action.
Oh, what an amazing season from them. And given the year as well, you know, off the back of last year and the pandemic and all the lockdowns and races that didn't get to go ahead, it was just a absolute, like I said, I got so much joy getting to watch Jay take it at the Volta and almost win a stage in his very first year, get that extension as well, and then Neve as well getting her own extension over at Canyon SRAM, and not to mention a few of the top tens that she got in a few of the World Tour races. It's we didn't just see some Zwifters that maybe don't have it, maybe have it. We saw some real life racers here that clearly do have it, and they've been recognised that with contract extensions. And then obviously we're going to see the next Jay and the next Neve come out very soon. Swift Academy is on currently. We're about to see our finalists hopefully announced in the next coming weeks. So I'm fingers crossed that we're going to have a couple of Aussies in there. See the next Jay maybe take the stage and the next Neve take the stage.
I've been doing the training program, obviously not with the end game in sight for the academy, for the elite level at 46. It might have just slipped by me, but it's been good fun trying to do some of the training programs and pretty tough as well. We're just about ready to get started. The women are in the starters' hands, so to speak, and they're just about to roll away. For the 8 kilometres, the individual time trial in Bologna, this is a replica of a course that was used in the Giro d'Italia a few years ago. And whether it's in the real world, Kieran, or it's on Zwift, pain is pain, and it hurts all just the same.
You've summed it up there, Matt, that's for sure. I don't think there's any easy way to ride this course. Whether you're first across that line or last across that line, it's going to be hard. That doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there's that age-old saying, you don't get any quicker. It doesn't get any easier, you just get quicker. I think that's going to be the same here. But I've got to say, I think for the women, you're spot on the money. I think Katie is going to be the out-and-out favourite tonight. All eyes will be on her, that's for sure. Across in the men, I'm liking the pick of Marco. I see that you mentioned he had a power outage and was hunting coffee this morning. Hopefully got that caffeine in and he's ready to fire tonight.
I know he was hunting coffee because he lives 2 streets from me and I was hunting coffee as well. I found it. I'm not sure if he did. We're about to discover whether or not he got the caffeine into his system. Let's now head down to the women's race as they're about to get underway. They do make a start. We're on board here with, this is Angela McRae, and she's punching out more than 4 watts per kilo, Kieran. That's a pretty solid start.
Yeah, she's really turning the heat on early here, you could say. I mean, there's a lot of different strategies to riding this course. You saw their profile. It is a slightly downhill almost, that's running to the climb. I know a lot of climbers out there, myself included. I ride this quite conservatively in the first 7K, 6K of it until I hit that climb. Obviously, being so steep, it's all the difference is made in that final. But different riders, different power profiles. Everyone has their tactics, the way they like to ride a time trial. It might suit a lot of people to ride it quite hard into it. And 4.4, 4.6 watts per kilogram, it's quite clear that Angela out here, she's not mucking around. Obviously, racing for the Evo team there in the fluoro pink colours. I could imagine that she's hunting for a win here, definitely with what we can see quite early on. That's for sure.
Well, as you mentioned, getting the timing right is absolutely crucial for an event like this and measuring your effort. And we see this both online and out in the real world. Measuring your effort is crucial. So having the advantage, particularly on Zwift, of being able to ride the course multiple times, that can really come to the fore. And in your experience from having ridden so many events on Zwift, how much of an advantage is it to be able to watch the data and seeing the sort of numbers that your rivals are pumping out?
Oh, it's a massive difference. It's a game changer. I think the style of racing on Zwift is almost a new format of cycling when it comes to esports. You can really measure yourself against your rivals there. And what we're watching tonight, the individual time trial, it's a unique function on Zwift its own self. It's not what your normal race would look like on Zwift. It's actually staggered starts, similar as what you would have in the real life. So you actually get time checks as you're riding through compared to your rivals. You can see your rivals around you. You have your 30-second woman or man. You have your 30-second woman or man in front of you, behind you, etc. As you can see here, flicking back. But yeah, I think it's a game changer for me personally. I'm someone that's always motivated by my rival. I like looking at that time. I like having that measure, and getting that on Zwift is a great little carrot there.
This looks like it could be Gina Arnold, who we're on board with, and she's riding in B grade and punching out 2.6 watts per kilo. And as you mentioned before, Kieran, measuring the effort is crucial and making sure you've got plenty of energy to be able to spend when you do get to the final 2 kilometres, because that climb is brutal. What I've found in doing a few time trial events in the Zwift format is having somebody come past you and you get this mind, I can get in the slipstream, but you can't, even though it looks as if you can, you can't. And it's easy to get suckered into that. And we're not too far away from the men getting started.
Yeah, that's actually a good point to touch on there as well. I mean, a lot of our watchers might not realize that obviously it's a time trial, and in the real world, the wheel comes past. You might get a little bit of a suck as they come past, a little bit of hiding from the wind, but you do not get that on Zwift. What we're seeing here right now, there's no draft. That rider comes past you, there's no effect at all. You're still got your real effort. It's almost as though that rider isn't even in front of you. It's just that psychological fact. We just saw Megan Gammy go past here along with her chasing rider as well. I think it was, by the looks of it there, in Hammer as well. Yeah, chasing her down here. We're seeing a bit of a tick-for-tack battle between the two. So that's what you're looking at there. That's the psychological kind of battles between each other, yo-yoing in front of each other. There's no actual draft here. There's no benefit of being in front or behind, just the psychological effects.
We're about to go across to the men, and this is on board with Chalmers from the men's category, and he's one of the juniors. He's riding for the Aero squad in the juniors, and the Aero team, they've been putting together a really good group of young riders competing on Zwift, Kieran, and transferring that out onto the open roads also. This has been a pretty significant team in Australian cycling over the last 18 months in particular.
Yeah, I think it's got to give credit there to Tully Listerfield, the real brains behind the Aero team. He saw I wouldn't say exactly a gap or anything, but maybe something missing in the Australian scene, someone that really wants to take this sport, or as we call it, esports, very seriously. And that's what he's done. And he's really servicing a full fleet of riders now. He's got a women's elite squad, a men's elite squad, and then a junior feeder squad into that. Then there's a emerging squad under that. There's a masters squad for both sides of the gender as well there. So he's really servicing everybody and anyone now at this point, and it's its own community. It's awesome to see. They've been racing the Zero as Zwift Racing League. They're taking that incredibly seriously. They're trying to hedge towards promotion once again, but we're going to probably speak on quite a few riders tonight, as we're obviously looking at Nate right now, one of the junior members, but they've got some of the top talent in Australian cycling, full stop, not just the esport, but for cycling, full stop. We just spoke about Zwift Academy at the start there, but Jay Vine was a member of Aero last year. He had his real life team Aero, but on Zwift he raced for Aero, and that's where he got his teeth cut in, and how he knew how to obviously do what he needed to do to win Zwift Academy. And a lot of that goes down to Tully and his team Aero.
I imagine that is pretty motivating for the likes of Nate Chalmers, who is a junior, and he can average 4.4 watts per kilo for 20 minutes. As we're now on board with Alex Bogner, who rides for ARA Pro Racing Sunshine Coast, and we can see that he's got that kit in Zwift. And I love the way, Kieran, as somebody, you who works for Zwift, you've been able to do this with the National Road Series teams and get their real-world kit into the Zwift platform. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I do quite like seeing it. ARA, it's got to be a credit to them. They were early adopters of the platform. They got behind Zwift. I think it was Benny Kirsten back in the day, knew Wes, back when Zwift was quite new. It wasn't as big as it is these days, and they sunk their teeth in. They brought into the philosophy of it, what it could do for them and their team, and the boost it could give to them from a marketing standpoint. And that's what they were rewarded with. They got their jersey in game. I think Wes and myself would love to give every NRS team a jersey, and it's something we'd love to work towards, but it's got to be a big credit to ARA. And there's another team out there called Oliver's Real Food Racing from the NRS standpoint, and they were early adopters as well. And it's just a credit to them. As we're watching Alex, he's obviously one of the key starlets of ARA, and you can see here why he's doing so well on Zwift is, his team has taken it serious for so long. You can also see he's got a little pro badge next to his name. That's because ARA are a continental level team. Every continental level or higher on Zwift get noticed as a professional rider. They are in the real world, so that's how we know them on Zwift. But yeah, it looks like, just going back to his actual performance here this evening, he might be on one, sitting above 5 watts per kilogram the entire time that we've been watching him. That's no small feat. My legs are burning just looking at him, if I'm honest, Matt.
Yeah, they're big numbers, but he's got more to give. I think he's actually measuring his effort really well here, Alex Bogner, because according to Zwift Power, for 20 minutes, he can maintain 6.2 watts per kilo. And Kieran, you've already spoken about the significance of measuring your effort, having enough petrol tickets left for the final 2 kilometres. So even though the 5.7 that he's pumping out at the moment looks big, and to my eyes, I can even feel the lactic acid in them at the moment with those sorts of numbers, I think he's got more to give. He's within himself, and he's ready to go full gas up the climb.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I do recall Alex actually took out a stage back in the virtual NRS this year earlier on. So he's not a rider to underwrite here. I would say he is one of the, I don't know if the out and out favourite given the talent of climbers that we have, but I'd just put him as a dark horse, that's for sure. I think he has the definite power profile that could suit this, that's for sure. As we are going to get a look here at Jeff Watson racing in the C category. As I noted, we have our A through to D grade riders on here, so it's not a course just for our out and out power talents of Australian cycling, but our all grades, our club riders as well. So everybody out here is giving it a crack this evening, which is awesome to see. But we're back here across to one of our A riders, Mr. Doherty, and he is really laying it down, even higher numbers than what we were just seeing from Alex there. He's sitting around 6 watts per kilogram. That's absolutely unreal.
That's huge. This is Tony Doherty, and on Zwift Power, it doesn't have his numbers up as yet in terms of what he can average for 20 minutes. So it's new territory for us watching Tony Doherty in action. But back to your point before about taking a look at some of the competitors in C grade, there's D grade there as well. This is one of the great things about this series, about the format, is those of us who are less proficient as cyclists get the opportunity to test ourselves against some of the very best in the country, Kieran. And we can ride a course like this and see how time measures up against Mark O'Brien, who we see in action around Mount Buninyong at the National Championships, competing against those that we see also at the Tour de France. That's one of the beauties about the format.
Yeah, definitely, Matt, and I think that's one of the best parts, right? I think if you're racing in C grade or D grade, you still can see how you stack up whilst you're also racing just against your fellow C and D graders, and there's still that relevant competition to you. But hey, we all are on Strava at the end of the day, and I for sure definitely take a sneaky look up the 1 in 20 each time. Even if I'm doing a recovery ride up there, I take a sneaky look and see how far off Freddie Ovett I am, and I'm a fair way off, but you still take a look each time, that's for sure. And that's what all these C and D graders will do this evening. And it is a joy to get to have a look at, where you do stack up at the end of the day. But yeah, here we go. Here is Rebecca Wysack that you mentioned earlier, Matt, out here doing it in C grade for us.
Great to see her back in action. She started as a triathlete and she was a class triathlete. She competed a fair bit up at the Noosa Triathlon, and then she competed in the Criterium up in Noosa. She's been a multiple world champion on the track, but we really got to see the class of Rebecca Wysack when she missed out on Olympic selection in the manner in which she conducted herself on the back of being told she wasn't going to make it to an Olympic Games. It was absolutely brilliant. She's got the rainbow jerseys. That tells us how good she's been as an athlete. But as you mentioned before, Kieran, on the back of becoming a mother recently, it's great to see her out here racing. And I hope that Ben is there as well and lifting the weight that is required as the other parent in this game.
I've got to imagine that Mr. Hill is out there in Canberra in the garage cheering on Beck, and hopefully he's on dad duties tonight. Obviously, I imagine I didn't see him on the start list, so Beck gets to take the start line tonight, which is awesome to see it getting shared around. But do notice she is wearing the Aero kit. We did just speak about Aero, not to give him all the sunshine in the world, but what a nice little pickup there for Aero. I imagine a lot of the juniors on that team across in the women's side, they would have been looking up to Beck, over the last 10 years, that's for sure. And now they get to ride alongside her. How amazing would that be? What a great opportunity for those riders.
It's pretty cool. You can see B. O'Connor just behind her as well. That's Beck O'Connor in the women's, not Ben O'Connor, who was fourth at this year's Tour de France. Back on board with the men, this is Henderson, who rides for the Coburg Club. This is my territory in the northern suburbs of Melbourne. This is Phil Henderson, and he's moving along reasonably well. And most riders we're seeing punching out around about the 5 watts per kilo. But Kieran, he's coming towards the crunch end because Phil finds himself on the hill.
Oh, he's doing it tough for sure. This is where it gets really hard. You can see in that top right-hand corner an inkling towards the percentages the riders are riding on, and 11% at the moment Phil's having the ride up. Yeah, extremely brutal. It is good that he's riding for the Coburg Club, obviously over your side of Melbourne there, Matt. There is quite a lot of club riders out here. We're seeing the Randwick riders out here, Dulwich Hill as well are out here, Sydney Club. And that's because just recently wrapped up a club series with AusCycling, and this is sort of the culmination of that. We get to also see how do these club riders stack up in a stage race format now, not only just the club nights that we were running. So this is a great way for a lot of these clubs to get that final check-in just before we all get to go racing in the real world in the crit season that's hopefully about to kick off for most of our states now. But yeah, we can see here he's definitely doing it tough up this hill. He's digging in though. He's doing a terrific job.
And he's maintained some real consistency. He's just been hanging around at that 5 watts per kilo. Great job, Phil Henderson, riding strongly for the Coburg Cycling Club. And the incentive is he's got the carrots in front of him, and like Bugs Bunny, he keeps chewing them up, and he's on his way to Albuquerque. This is a solid performance by Henderson as he keeps powering up the climb of Bologna.
Oh, yeah, he is just about to catch Chris Pierce there. Obviously, he's, I think, maybe Minuteman potentially. It looks like he had only just caught a rider as well. So he's just made the catch there and continues to push on the charge. He just went through that flattening off period. I find that flattening off period got to be one of the most disheartening parts of this hill as well. You almost think you're there because of it. It's a kick in the teeth almost as you get right back into it. And you can see we're back at 16 and 15% now. Very, very tough hill, this one.
He's got just over a kilometre to go to the finish line for Phil Henderson.
Wow, yeah, we can take a look here at the women's now. We got Alexander McRae, I think it was, sorry.
Angela
McRae, sorry, yes, doing an absolutely amazing job here. You got minute 51 back to her chasing rider there, her nearest rival. I got to say, maybe we made the wrong call, Matt. I think it might be Angela taking the biscuits tonight. That's for sure. What are your thoughts there?
Definitely. She's got this one all sewn up. I haven't seen Katie Banerjee. Maybe she didn't make it through to the start line. I'm not entirely sure. But this performance, regardless, by Angela McRae is an outstanding ride. It sets her up nicely for the next 2 stages to come. Let's remember that tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, they have the Queen stage of the event. It's up to the big mountain around Watopia. Then on Sunday, 2 laps of the circuit that was used in Richmond for the World Championships in 2015. And for Angela McRae, Kieran, she set herself up where she can ride conservatively for the next 2 days and defend. But based on this performance, I'm tipping she won't be conservative at all. She'll be out for more.
I think you're spot on, Matt. I don't think she's definitely going to be riding conservative at all. Looking at this, she probably knows she's the strongest rider in this field. And why not, when you reach the Watopia KOM tomorrow, why not step on the front foot and lead from the front? Sometimes the best form of defense is offense. We're going to get across back to the men here. We've got a bit of action coming into the final, I believe. Yes, look at this. We've got one of the Canberra riders here pushing 6.2 watts, but he's being chased by one of the Inc riders, one of the eSport teams, very closely there. It's a real push to the line here. This is something else, actually, as we got orange numbers there. Wow.
This is Seb Mueller and Stevenson chasing through to the finish line. It is a strong finish by Mueller, and Stevenson right on his hammer at 13 seconds behind, and some huge numbers being produced. As you mentioned before, as we're on board now with Windsor as well, into that red zone, up at 8+ watts per kilo. They are big numbers, Kieran, particularly at the back end of what has been a tough course, the time trial in Bologna.
Yeah, and we're getting a sneaky look across on the left there at some of the results as well as they roll through. Unfortunately, we might not get live results right at the end here. We're going to have to push across to Zwift Power to take a look at those. But we can see that Stevenson there, 14:54. Wow, that's a quick time. Anything sub 15 here, I say you're flying to get up this hill that quick.
That is a really quick time. Mueller was through with 15:38. We're back on board with Coburg's Phil Henderson. He has been putting in a solid performance, and see how he measures up against the time of Stevenson. They're going shoulder to shoulder. There's no drafting benefit. Psychologically, this will be really tough in their respective garages, Kieran.
Oh, this is just mono. I mean, mono, Matt. I think it's all about the bragging rights. I think Henderson actually has the technical lead here. I believe he's caught the man in front, but now being surpassed, obviously. So technically, he has the edge. But I mean, you know what it's like when you're on the road. You want to be first across the line at the end of the day, and that's what Pink has done. He's really put the hammer down, and he's really wanting to be first across the line. We're getting a good look here at.
This is Pierce that we're on board with. It was good to see Daniel Pink from the UK participating in the AusCycling Esports event, as we're on board now with Pierce, who's been pretty consistent at a little over 4 watts per kilo. The last couple of 100 metres, though, they do start to feel really long.
Yeah, no, it's a real drag, this final, Matt. I mean, it's where you make a lot of time up, if I'm honest, where it flattens off and you need to pick that speed back up again. If you can't do so, it's going to make a massive difference. But we're back in the women here, watching the C women. Oh, sorry, it's the A women, but being caught by Mrs. Wyzak back there, putting out quite strong numbers there, 3.4 watts per kilogram. I think she's going to definitely be my odds-on favourite to take out the C women.
She might be getting an upgrade as well from C grade to B grade pretty quickly, and it won't be too far away before she returns to A grade, Kieran, at this rate.
I think a rider of that class, Matt, will be back to A grade before she knows it, that's for sure. I don't think it's going to be awfully too long with Coach Ben beside her. I would expect to see back in racing for Aero in the Zero A women, that's for sure, very soon.
And I like the name of this rider that we're on board with, Birdie Num Num.
Certainly a creative one. I don't know what her real name would be, but I quite like her kit as well. I'm not too sure what that one is, and I try to stay up to date with all the kits that come out on Zwift, and I try to collect them all myself, but I don't know if I've actually seen that one before. Might have to see if
worth
you know
noting, Kieran. I don't know that kit, but she's in the 50-plus age category. She's participating in A grade. She does have a former dual world champion breathing down her neck, but Birdie Num Num is going Birdie okay. This is a pretty strong ride, but Wyzak is just about onto her. This is a really strong ride by the rider from Canberra.
No, Beck's really showing her class here up this hill. I think she's obviously, she's only coming back onto the bike. As we mentioned, she's a recent mother now, but I think the class shows through. Once a world champion, always a world champion at the end of the day, and she's really putting the power down up this climb. But all credit to Birdie Num Num. She's obviously, she's still putting it together. She's pushing all the way to the line. This climb never gets easy. It's the worst climb in Zwift, I'd almost say. It's just a wall all the way to the end.
And the quickest time, Angela McRae, she gets the quickest time, 17 minutes and 19 seconds for McRae. It's Inghammer in second position at 18:06. Third place, that is Megan Gammy. She's at 20 minutes and 17 seconds. So some pretty big gaps, almost a 3-minute advantage for McRae down to third place. But the gap between first and second is tighter than I anticipated, Kieran. So this race across the 3 days, it's a long way from being over. And Hammer will be hoping that she can turn McRae into her nail on tomorrow's stage up the mountain.
Yeah, how cycling works. It's not all done until it's done. There's been so many classic battles throughout the ages. Can only go back to, the 2016 Giro where Chris Froome famously took that one out in the depths of that race and did that dramatic breakaway. So you never know. You never know when it's not done until that final stage is wrapped up. As we flicked back over to the men here, we've got a big rider, M. Shaw, racing from Great Britain. But yeah, as I mentioned, we can get a quick little glimpse on the left there at the results ahead of actually getting the final results.
Doherty's got the quickest time, 14:01. You said under 15 is fast. That was almost under 14. Doherty at the top of the board. Story with 14:33 is the next best. Aubrey is then in third position at 15:34, followed by Mueller, Sig, Bogner in 6th position at 15:50. And I know the quality of Alex Bogner at 15:50. So to see that time by Doherty, that is a huge performance. Tony Doherty with a time of 14:01, Kieran. He has set the benchmark for everybody else to chase across the weekend.
No, that's a marked rider right there straight away. He's obviously come in under the radar, but he's gone right onto the radar with that ride. Riding for VeloFit Australia as well, one of our NRS teams. I think one of the smaller teams as well. So awesome to see them getting a result at the end of a year where there was no racing, unfortunately, for the NRS out on the road. So terrific to see one of our smaller teams managing to actually get a result. But that is it now for our A men having finished. So we will confirm tomorrow on the stream that Doherty was our winner, but it's looking like he didn't just take it out, but he dominated the race.
It was a huge performance, wasn't it? It was our first opportunity to get to see him. There was no data coming into this race about him on Zwift Power in terms of his watts per kilo for 20 minutes. We've got it now, and the number is big. He'll take the leader's jersey into day 2, stage 2 for the men's race. It's Angela McRae for the women's race. Tomorrow's stage, Kieran, it kicks off 9 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. It is a tough one. Give us your thoughts on that course to the top of the big mountain around Watopia.
I think that it's a course that you need to wait for the finish, but being a Zwift race at the end of the day, the race will be on from the start. So it's the age-old adaptation of a CX race: ride conservative, and then ride that last lap as hard as you can. But everybody makes that look easier than I think it actually is, that's for sure. So we'll see who can do that best. You know, I think, like I said, the name is all about that final climb, but that doesn't mean someone can't slip up the road, you know. I think we just saw one rider go under the radar and take it out, so why not another tomorrow?
But the alternative is the Annemiek van Vleuten strategy. I'm going to go hard at the start, attack in the middle, and full gas at the finish. That's generally her approach to the racing.
That's how I like to race Zwift races, that's for sure. It might never get me a win, it might get me out the back, but it's the only way I know how to race on Zwift.
Brilliant. So we look forward to you joining us again tomorrow. I'll be out. Kate Bates will be in. Kieran Lewis will continue commentating. We have Tony Doherty in the leader's jersey for the men's race. It's Angela McRae for the women's race. 1 stage down, 2 to go. It's Watopia tomorrow. Then it's Richmond on Sunday to see who can take out the AusCycling Esports Tour. Thanks for joining us.